Welcome to this Time Savers Guide regarding how to get into Villanova University. My name is Craig Meister. I'm a college admissions coach. You can learn more about how you can work with me one-on-one throughout the college admissions and application processes at collegemeister.com. Villanova is not your grandfather's or grandmother's Villanova. It's gotten far more selective, and we're going to talk today about how you can actually thread the needle and earn your way in as a first-year student to this all-enticing school right outside of Philadelphia. Tip number one, below this video is a link to my classic article, How to Get into the Ivy League Ethically. No, Villanova is not an Ivy League institution, but increasingly, a lot of students are considering Villanova at the same time as they're considering other hyper-selective institutions like Ivy League schools like Georgetown, Boston College even amazingly. These are all schools that 15, 20 years ago were not at this level of selectivity, but because of the demand for higher education, because of the demand for name brand schools, these schools have risen to the top far faster than maybe others of similar size or similar backgrounds in some way. So Villanova is extremely selective, and that article will help you lay a strong foundation for 9th grade, 10th grade, and 11th grade. So read it from start to finish. If you happen to be a rising 12th grader or parent of a 12th grader who's just arriving at this video, there's a lot in that article that you have frankly missed the opportunity to do, but it at least gives you an understanding of what Villanova is going to be looking for in terms of the academic achievements and overall personal disposition, extracurricular output of a typical successful student who is applying as a first-year student to Villanova. So read that article carefully so you get an understanding of the level of competition you will be up against to be a serious contender for first-year admission at Villanova. If you read it as an underclassman or as an 11th grader even, that article is going to give you a lot of ammunition so that you can walk into the first day of 12th grade year in a very advantageous position to get in to Villanova, regardless of the admissions plan you choose as a 12th grader when you apply. Tip number two, talking about admissions plans. Villanova has a diversity of them. They have early action, they have early decision 1, they have early decision 2, and they also have regular. I strongly recommend that if Villanova is your first choice school, you apply early decision 1. The downside of doing so is that it's a contract. You have to sign it, your parent or guardian has to sign it, your school counselor has to sign it, basically all agreeing that if you get in the middle of December, you will go to Villanova the next fall. So that means that if you are going to want to compare financial aid offers at different institutions or even merit aid offers at different institutions, you really shouldn't lock yourself into a binding contract like early decision 1 or early decision 2. But the reason why I recommend doing it is your goal is to get in, right? And it has the highest acceptance rates of the admissions plans that Villanova offers. So that's why I'm telling you that if you're serious and you are committed to attend, come heck or high water, Villanova University, early decision 1 is certainly the way to go. While Villanova does not officially track demonstrated interest, this is sort of like a passive-aggressive way to show demonstrated interest if you're getting your act together by November 1st and basically telling Villanova, I will attend if I get in. The reason they really like that is they like to accept sure things because that helps their yield, that helps their ranking, and there's a lot of follow-on effects from that. So as a result, they want also people who are excited to be at Villanova, who can be ambassadors for Villanova the entire 4-year experience they're there, and also as alumni for years and decades to come. So it's a win-win for Villanova to accept students who really want to attend, and thus the acceptance rates for such students who apply early decision 1 in particular, but early decision 2 as well, for those who just can't get their act together by November 1st, are higher than for early action and for regular. I should state that early decision 2 is a January 15th deadline and a February 15th reply by date. So you also have that second coming, if you will, of early decision that Villanova offers. Early action is a great option if you just get your act together early. That still does show some maturity, right, and proactivity. And you want to hear early, but you're not necessarily ready to commit until May 1st of your senior year. So with all that in mind, I am always a big believer in the earlier the better. If you can get strong applications out the door early, So if you're not willing to commit ED1, I'd actually recommend EA, unless Villanova is your first choice school, in which case you may want to do ED2. Just to, again, show how willing and willing you are to bind yourself to Villanova University. Tip number 3, even though Villanova does not give you the opportunity like some colleges do to upload a supplemental extracurricular resume into its supplement to the Common Application, I still strongly recommend that you do draft on a Word document or Google document a full-fledged, unabridged extracurricular resume about yourself that covers all the extracurricular activities you have pursued since the summer after 8th grade all the way through the moment in which you are applying to Villanova. Why do I ask you to do this? Well, you could be applying to other schools where they will allow you to upload a full-fledged extracurricular resume to their supplement to the Common Application. But even if you are applying to schools that don't allow you to do that, you want to pull from a document with your most impressive accolades on it when you are completing the activities page of the Common Application in order to fill out the top 10 activities list, which is, again, that activities page on the common portion of the Common Application. If you find that after you plug that information into the activities page, you still have more content from your extracurricular resume that I'm suggesting that you pull together on a Google or Word document that did not fit into the activities page, that's the point at which you would want to take advantage of the additional information section of the writing page of the Common App. In that section, if you say that you want to share more information, a new field will open up that allows you 650 additional words to write about anything you please. And that is where I would infuse additional details about any extracurricular activities that got short shrift in the activities section because of the character count limits. And you can elaborate on one or more extracurricular activities in that additional information section. Sometimes my students will actually just add brand new entries into that additional information section because maybe they're in 14, 15 extracurricular activities and only the top 10 fit in the activities page. And then therefore they're going to put 4 or 5 additional activities into the additional information section so the college admissions team can review it there. Other times they have only maybe 7 or 8 activities, but they have much more to say about those 7 or 8 activities, and therefore they're going to have longer entries about all 7 or 8 of those activities, let's say, in the additional information section, than they would be able to squeeze into the very tight activities page. So my point being, sell yourself short at your own risk. I always say go big or go home. If you watch a lot of my videos, you've heard me say that repeatedly. And below this video, I'm going to include a link to my How to Build an Extraordinary Extracurricular Resume short course. And the reason being, if you want to know how to pull together and draft a beautiful and detail-oriented extracurricular resume for the exact purpose that I just talked about today, you definitely want to take that course so that you're ready to put your best foot forward when describing your extracurricular exploits to date. The next tip I want to give you is where you apply at Villanova is almost as important, if not more important, than when you apply to Villanova. What do I mean by this? Villanova actually has a number of different schools within the overall institution, right? So they have a College of Liberal Arts and Sciences with a liberal arts track and a science track. They have a College of Engineering. They have a College of Nursing, and they also have the Villanova School of Business. The least selective of these tracks is the liberal arts track within the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences. The others are all varying degrees of more selective. Now, with that said, if you have a resume full of business activities, don't just apply to the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences liberal arts track because I said it's the quote-unquote less selective one to get into. If you have a compelling angle as to why you would be a good fit for the Villanova School of Business or the College of Engineering or the College of Nursing, apply where your passions exist, but also where your resume is pointing towards based off of your past participation in activities and interests. But all other things being equal, if you have a relatively vanilla resume and strong grades still, I mean, you're still going to need strong grades, is that How to Get into the Ivy League Ethically article explains. But if you have strong grades, but nothing's really standing out in terms of passion areas or interest areas, and your number one goal is just to get into Villanova, and you don't really care what you want to major in, I would say the Liberal Arts and Sciences liberal arts track makes the most sense. That's where you can ultimately study in liberal arts areas like cultural studies and economics and Latin American studies and Italian and stuff like that. But the other areas are all more sort of pre-professionally focused, whether it be nursing or business or engineering or even the sciences track where you're going to get more pre-med students. So for all of those reasons, Liberal arts makes the most sense if you're sort of agnostic in terms of what you want to major in. Otherwise, definitely apply to the program or major or schools that the school that you really align with in terms of your value system, your goals, professionally, personally, etc., because you're going to be able to make the case later in the application as to fit, and you want to be able to do that authentically and honestly. The next tip is, currently, as of the filming of this video, Villanova remains test optional. When should you submit your SAT or ACT scores? When should you not submit your SAT or ACT scores? I would say at a school like Villanova, you don't really want to submit SAT or ACT test scores if they are below 1360 or below 30 on those two respective tests, the SAT and the ACT respectively. Now, there's always exceptional cases. And of course, if let's say you have straight A pluses in a very rigorous curriculum, but you have, let's say, a 1350 or 1340, you could still consider submitting those scores because those are still respectable scores. But I would say that ultimately, all other things being equal, you want to try to have as your basement 1360 on the SAT or 30 on the ACT before you are confident that you should be sending your scores to a school like Villanova. I've even had some students who've hidden some school scores as high as the high 1300s for Villanova. I don't really necessarily think that's necessary, because I think overall, once you're in the 1300s, high 1300s, or 30 or higher on the ACT, you're going to be able to demonstrate to Villanova that you are hanging with the big boys. You're able to academically produce on a standardized test, output information that you're capable of really showing some strength there. Obviously, every unique story is different. That's why people like to work with me one-on-one, because everyone has, different combinations and permutations of strengths and weaknesses, which would help me advise you better about whether or not you should be hiding your SAT or ACT scores to Villanova, or whether or not you should be sharing those SAT or ACT scores with Villanova. Just so you know, at least again, as of this filming, you can self-report your SAT or ACT scores to Villanova without having to send your official score reports until you actually have to, you deposit and matriculate, at which point they will check and verify that you self-reported the correct scores if you end up going into Villanova University as a first-year student. Next tip, let's focus on the actual supplement to the Villanova application on let's say, the Common Application. In particular, the two essays that you're going to have to complete. They're really not long essays. One is roughly 250 words, but in past years, they've given you up to 300 words on the actual field within the supplement. So you have really up to 300 words on the first essay for their supplement, and only 150 words on the second essay that you write for their supplement. And I think that's actually the more important question. So I think it's sort of ironic and sort of sad and disappointing that they don't give you more space to answer that question, because that's the most direct and important question on the supplement. But let's talk about supplemental question number 1, which you have, again, up to 300 words to answer, but they're recommending roughly 250, just so no one's overwhelmed or anything. You have a choice between 4 different questions or 4 different prompts. And these are the 4 prompts that you can choose from to respond to for your first essay. Prompt number 1, St. Augustine states that well-being is not concerned with myself alone, but with my neighbor's good as well. How have you advocated for equity and justice in your communities? If that doesn't speak to you, don't do it. Don't feel like there's one of these 4 prompts that's the one that's going to help you, that's the one they are looking for an answer for. They're looking for you to respond to the prompt that you feel you can write the best essay about yourself and really put your best foot forward on. So if that doesn't really connect with you, if you haven't done anything, quote unquote, for equity and justice in your community, forget about it. If you have, then you have 250 words to produce an essay, a nice essay with an intro/thesis, a body supporting the thesis, and a conclusion that goes a step beyond the thesis, where you can tell and show that story of how you have been a positive change maker, let's say, or affected positive change in your community in a way that has supported what Villanova would describe as equity and justice. If you don't know what that is, obviously brush up on what those terms mean in the context of higher education in the United States of America, because they have sort of very specific meanings these days. But if you feel like you connect with it, good luck. And again, try to draft so that your final draft is 300 words, but your first drafts often should be 400, 450, 500 words, so that you ultimately can winnow it down to the best 300 words to tell and show a story that really has you as the starring character, you taking action, and hopefully you will be able to infuse a sentence or two within that little short answer or essay about how you see yourself continuing to pursue that equity or justice and paint a picture of yourself doing so, maybe in a specific name-dropping way through some club, through some activity or program at Villanova. Wouldn't that be a nice cherry on top if you can fit it in? And that's why, again, drafting makes a lot of sense, because the more you draft, the more likely you'll be able to squeeze that in at some point, maybe in that final conclusion, which really would be a nice cherry on top and a new content to add in the conclusion, as opposed to just restating the thesis like a lot of sort of vanilla applicants will. Prompt number 2, as an Augustinian community, we believe that you should see people for who they are. Please share with us a time when you were misjudged based on your identity or background. Again, we're living in a post-affirmative action world right now, so it is not surprising to me that Villanova and many other colleges and universities are trying to have leading prompts or questions that really try to get you to speak about your identity, your background, and how particularly intersections with that, if you will, have impacted your philosophy on life or your value system or your character, or illustrative of your the way in which you handle adversity, or handle confrontation, or handle mistakes that people make about you or yourself, make about others. So that would be another essay prompt here, where you could really dig into sort of an uncomfortable situation and how you made the best of it, and hopefully come off smelling like roses, and hopefully are able to also reflect on sort of how it made you think and show maturity in your choice of topic to discuss. And again, if you can be somewhat forward-looking, at least in a sentence or two in the last third of that short essay, about how you sort of see yourself continuing to grow at Villanova, that would not be a bad idea. Prompt number 3, in the Villanova community, we learn from one another. What is a life lesson that you have learned that you would want to share with others? This is wide open. You do not have to feel pressure to be a certain race, religion, background, or identity to complete this one. And of course, you could always do the other ones without having a particular race, identity, or background in the others as well. But those are going to lend themselves more to particular demographic groups, most likely, and that's why they're being asked, of course. But for prompt number 3, any lesson you've learned, anything that's important to you that you feel like would add another facet or dimension to your application, you should definitely consider here, especially if you know it has not been shared elsewhere. Maybe it's just an idiosyncratic or almost eccentric element to your personality or your life that you feel like would just add humor or something interesting that would show your maturity, your thought processes in a new way. I think you definitely could make hay out of that particular prompt, and therefore I would seriously consider it, especially if you're not jiving with prompts number 1 or 2 for this first essay. In terms of how you structure it, the same idea: intro with thesis, body to support the thesis, and then a conclusion that says something thoughtful and new. Again, you have an opportunity here with 300 words to maybe throw in a sentence or two forward-looking and not just backward-looking on this particular episode or lesson learned, so that you can connect the dots between how you've developed to date and how you see yourself maybe developing or evolving as a real-life student at Villanova. Painting a picture of yourself at Villanova is a win-win for you if you can do so specifically. And then finally, prompt number 4, at Villanova, we often say, quote, each of us strengthens all of us, end quote. In a time of personal challenges, how do you borrow from the strength of others? This one, again, does not speak to me at all, but maybe you feel like that really aligns with something that's happened in your life, and you can talk about how you've leaned on others or grown from the strength of others. The reason I'm not as huge of a fan of this particular one is it puts you potentially in a secondary role or sort of a supporting character role, whereas the other 3, I feel like it's easier for you to be the star of the essay. This one, because you're going to have to show yourself leaning or drawing strength from someone else, has the risk of potentially putting you again in the supporting role, which is not ideal. And that's going to take up some word count that you're not going to be focusing on you and your uniqueness and your awesomeness. So as a result, I would be a little more leery about prompt number 4, but if you do choose it, structure it the same way I've been recommending you structure the other ones, with a nice intro and thesis, a body that supports the thesis and intro, and then a conclusion and proves it, and then a conclusion that says something new and thoughtful. I personally just don't think that prompt is as good as the other 3. But again, that is my personal opinion, and you can make a really strong essay out of any of these if you feel inspired to do so. And then finally, Villanova will have an extra little essay, and its question is this, or prompt: why do you want to call Villanova your new home, and how will you become part of our community? please submit a written response of about 150 words. So this is very short for a why this college type essay. And I think that's really a shame. Officially speaking, you have 200 words as of the 2022-2023 admission cycle. So I'm assuming they're going to give you 200 words again once the common application opens on August 1st, 2023 for the 2023-2024 admission cycle. So 200 words is definitely better than 150 words, but it's still pretty short if you want to write your most compelling closing argument as to why you would be a great fit for Villanova and why Villanova is a great fit for you. But you do want to focus, ideally, a good amount of this essay on specifically the major or program and its unique attributes at Villanova, not just business generally, but business at Villanova. What's something specific about business at Villanova that really speaks to you? And you got to get into the specifics. You want to talk, if you don't know what you want to major in or if you're undecided, you want to talk generally about the vibe of the community and how you align with the value system of Villanova. Those should definitely be, one of those needs to be a good percentage of this essay, but you have 200 words, and I would try to maybe have one more additional flourish, if you will, about something specific to Villanova, something that is not something you could find at Georgetown, something that you could find at Boston College or other schools like Villanova, etc., that you can state definitively about why you are attracted to Villanova. Maybe it's location-based. Maybe you want to be in the Philadelphia metropolitan area for a very specific reason. Maybe, again, it's something specific to the professor who leads the program you want to study in, or a particular research opportunity or internship or externship or study abroad opportunity that is unique to Villanova. But you want to get as hyper-specific as you can here, but you also don't want to bite off more than you can chew here. You only have 200 words max. So as a result, don't pick 5 different things to talk about. Pick up to 2. And again, I would probably settle in on 2, because if you're too focused on academics, then the argument could be made that the student doesn't understand the value system of being a part of the Villanova community. Whereas if you focus too much on the Villanova community at the expense of academics, then they might wonder, how much thought have you given to your academics? So I would be less worried about that scenario than the first scenario where you just talk only about academics, because a lot of colleges will have the exact same majors as Villanova. So you got to get hyper-specific as to the particular opportunities that exist within that particular major or school within Villanova if it's going to be a cornerstone element of this essay. The Villanova community, we've obviously potentially already sort of hit on in the first essay, especially if you answered one of the prompts related to the Augustine nature of the community. But ultimately, all of those questions were very community-centric. Here's where you can get down to brass tacks about specifics about what's drawing you to Villanova, and also implicitly be communicating throughout this short essay why they should be drawn to you at Villanova. But you need to make a strong closing argument here that you see the fit so that they can be convinced that there is a fit, that they want to have you as a member of their community, not just for the next 4 years as an undergraduate, but also as a member of the alumni community for decades to come, hopefully, God willing. So there you go. That is how you get into Villanova. I hope that you've enjoyed this video. My name is Craig Meister. collegemeister.com is where you can find me. I hope you subscribe to my channel if you want to watch future videos in this similar vein or talking about other aspects of the college application or admissions processes. Definitely subscribe, give it a thumbs up, and I encourage you to stay safe and stay well as you're completing your application to Villanova. I wish you the very, very, very best of luck. And until next time, my name's Craig Meister. See you soon.